May, and good afternoon, good evening, Fabulites. This is Angela with part 2 of another edition of Notes on the News. And we just picking up where we left off. This is the segment where we share with you headline news, and we talk about the headlines, the stories, the subject matter at large. It's not news. It's just my take on the news. It's just my notes on the news. So let's. So Puerto Rico grid teetering despite $3.8 billion repair job. So I was talking about the fact that I don't really know what that means. 3.8 billion sounds like a lot to me for my household budget, but I don't did they whole lot. Don't use Chinese electronic in China, because you know a lot of these electronics are smart now. So they're like actually computers. They make, they not phones or tablets, but they have computers. Seems like if there's a or security concern, why are they over in your country? I mean, wondering. So yeah, that's what's going on. Hey, welcome back or welcome into the chat. A dog died on a Delta flight. Great, you're back. Yeah. I tried to check things out when I went out, but I couldn't figure out anything, but it's already been buffering. But I'm glad you're back. Hello. Hello, Kendra. Hello. A dog died on a Delta flight during a layover with vomit in its cage and a bloody blanket. I don't know what's up with these animals being transported on these planes that were dogs. We keep hearing issues with them. But anyway, and I don't know why my mind works the way it does. But I just thought the last book that I read that dealt with enslaved Africans being transported over here, they had people literally stacked on top of each other. And so you might have 2 or 3 people, and then somebody might have been 2 or 3 people, or 4 people might be stacked on top of them. I mean, just the idea of being in that close proximity to people that you don't know or people that you do know, but like being in close proximity with people like that, and they're using the restroom, they might be throwing up, they might be on their period. It's just they're sweating, they're under stress. It just seems really like intense. So I mean, I don't know why thinking about the dog dying in his vomit and his blood and everything got me to thinking about, that like, laying with a dead person by you, near you, on top of you, people crying and just, so they need to, I don't know what's up with, when I traveled with my dog, we traveled in the car, but I've never been opposed to traveling on a plane with her. But now I'm kind of like, I don't know, you know when we go to out the country the first time, we'll probably she probably won't go, because that just seems like a little bit extra to me to be traveling with a dog on a group trip for a couple of weeks. But yeah. Okay, Italy minister urges into Sicily refugee camp. So I guess somewhere in southern Italy, they have some kind of refugee camp, and the Italian minister is like, no more refugees. It's really interesting. Hey, welcome on the chat. It's really interesting how these Europeans have gone all over the world as migrants, refugees, colonizers, whatever you want to call it, just causing all kinds of hell. And now they're like, no, we don't want other people to come to our country, our countries, and yeah. So the Italy minister, I guess, is showing how strong they are and how Italy is getting flooded with immigrants from Libya and Northern Africa. Yeah. Okay. Well, Christopher Columbus was Italian, wasn't he? Or was it the Italian princess or queen that he went to for money? I don't know. I think he was Italian. So you know how I feel about Italians, right? Haitian American nurse is awarded whooping lump sum after defending fellow colleague. So I think it's cool when people who work together support each other, instead of being like, oh, I'm here to report to the boss what everybody else is doing, everybody against each other for the boss. Columbus was Italian, but Queen Isabella was Portuguese. Portuguese. F them. So, and then when I clicked on the story, I was interested because a Massachusetts nurse who sued her employer, Brigham and Women's Hospital, for racial discrimination and retaliation after sticking up for her black coworker, was awarded $28 million on Wednesday by the jury. I was just glad that she was sticking up for her black coworker. I like stories, and I like, I know that, we support one another and we help each other and we stand up for each other and we defend each other and we advocate for one another and we love one another. I know that because I see it in my life, and I like seeing stories that reflect that, I like the idea that this goes counter to that narrative that, oh, we can't get along, we don't like each other, we don't we love each other. Black people supporting black people all day, every day. Anything counter to that is an exception. That's what I say. I don't know, but that's what I choose to, that's what I see. At least 44 migrants drowned off the coast of Tunisia and Turkey. So I don't know if this is the same story that we opened the news with. Yeah, that was coming off of BBC. Tunisia boat capsizes. So I'm assuming that it's the same people. I don't know. Yeah. Berlin, so again, rest in peace to those people who have made their transition. Berlin Cathedral, police officer shoots rampaging man in the leg. I don't know what was going on at the Berlin Cathedral, and I don't know who the rampaging man was, why he was rampaging, what was going on, but African Grove Theater, the first Black Shakespearean playhouse. I finished up listening to the New Black Knowledge. I was listening to a show that they did talking about free blacks. And I think that in there they mentioned the Grove Theater, although I heard Globe Theater. But some people do not know about the African Grove Theater. It was a Shakespearean playhouse founded by activist William Brown in 1816. Yeah, I think they referenced it. However, the Black Theater was mysteriously burned down. How is the royal one, the royal queen? Dang, it's a distinctive way you say something at the end of your shows, and I just forgot. But every time you say it, I'm like, there's something really interesting in the cadence there. However, the Black Theater was mysteriously burned down. What's the mystery? Brown purchased a house in Manhattan on Thompson Street in 1816. He used the backyard and the garden to host social events. The events were so well known for being incredibly entertaining. The people traveled from all over just to be part of the shows. New York City during the 1820s was a difficult time to call home for many Black Americans. It was one of the places where escaped to seek refuge, many of them caught and often sold back to the South. The Black people needed somewhere they could go and have a place of their own. Ain't that the truth? We always need places to go, to have a place of our own. Leave me to just go let us just be with us. Can we just be with us? Yes. The African Grove Theater was the first Black theater company in New York City. In 1821, Brown moved to Mercer and Bleecker Street. I know Mercer and Bleecker Street, into a two-story house with a spacious tea garden. He had the second floor converted into a 300-seat theater. Now that's impressive. Even today, to do a small 100-seat theater is like it's like a nice thing, So wow, a 300-seat theater. And renamed the enterprise the African Grove Theater. And so what they were talking about today when I was listening to the New Black Knowledge, I don't know, I talked about them on we enjoy learning, we love learning. But he was talking about how, Black folks back in the day used African in referring to ourselves. Like in the 1860s and the 1600s and like that's just, so it was just kind of interesting because it almost seems like, oh, it's like a newfangled Negro thing to call yourself African, but it's like, no. And when you think of the AME church, that's African Methodist Episcopalian. So it's just kind of interesting, like, yeah, that's true. That language has been there. The evenings were often lavish affairs with large arrays of food and wine. The season opened with a performance of Richard III. The company mounted productions ranging from Shakespeare to pantomime to farce. Brown followed with Tom and Jerry, or Life in London, The Poor Soldier, Othello, Don Juan, and Obie, The Three-Fingered Jacks. Most of those shows I don't know, but I don't think of them as all Shakespearean. The success of the theater was due greatly to the ability to reinterpret and redefine classical theater traditions. The theater accomplished this by molding elements to suit the African American audience and integrate Negro culture, always being creative and adjusting things for us and making things work for us. And now one of my friends, an artist, and he's like, saying about black folks is, if you go into the Mexican community from the outside, you can look at their homes and tell that those people are Mexican. Like, the art, the way that they look visually, aesthetically, you can tell, you can feel their culture. When you go to, he says, I don't know, when you go to the Arab communities here, you can visually tell from the outside that they're, Arabic in their identification. But he said you can't tell that with the black folks here. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Because what's always kind of fascinated me is how boring cars are. Like, it seems like everybody's car is like white or black or gray or blue. Nobody's car is like, every once in a while you'll see a car that's like polka dot or got some stripes or has some but it seems like cars or houses could just be like individual reflections of like individuals. And they're also, for the most part, like, just kind of blah and boring. So I had thought about that, but I hadn't thought about it in the context of, as a reflection of, our identification as black people or African people or whatever. For instance, a script calling for a woolly-haired person would be changed to people or person of straight hair. Oh. The company lasted 3 years before it was burned down under mysterious circumstances. For many years, the African Grove played with a black cast and crew to mostly African-American audiences. It was the third of at least 4 attempts to create a black theater in the city, and the most commercially successful. After a few years, city officials shut down African Grove because of complaints of conduct. Those Negroes are acting up. Conduct that was normal among working class white New York theater audiences of the time was considered unacceptably boisterous when displayed by blacks. That's just like, sometimes it seemed like they, you know how if somebody get on your nerves, it's just like they breathe too loud. Like, you be looking at them like, would you shut up all of that breathing? And like in your head, they just breathing. But like, they get on your nerves so much that it's like, you just taking up too much space. That's how some seem like, to some of them, or to, it's like, you're golfing, you're taking up too much space, you're too loud, you're smiling too hard. Like, just go off someplace and disappear. I don't want to see your black behind. That's how they were. They didn't want to, black people are like, white people like the black people too boisterous. But they doing the same thing that the white people doing. It's just because the skin is black. It's like amplified. My looks black skin during the summer. Your house does? Some people say the theater was in trouble financially long before it burned down. I'm thinking that it burned down because the white people burned it down, but they trying to imply that it might be an insurance job. Did they even have, they had insurance back then, didn't they? Like, we'll be in trouble financially, so let's just burn it down and call it a wrap. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I had heard about the Grove Theater on the video this morning. I heard it. So best known for his role as Rolly or Raleigh on the sitcom Amen. And I'm like, Rolly, who is that? I couldn't, I'm like, I watched Amen. Who is that? I don't remember that person. Jester Hairston, his name is Jester, Gester, like a court jester. Jester Hairston dedicated himself to preserving the music of enslaved Africans. So when I saw the image, I'm like, oh, I do recognize him. Peace, Artie B. Fresh. Welcome on the chat. Some of the people that I had earlier, they haven't come back. I lost them forever and ever. I don't know if y'all can see his face there, but I remember him from Amen, seeing his image there. And I didn't know he had anything to do with music. He was born at Bellows Creek, North Carolina, July 9th, 1901. He was the old man, right? An arranger, composer, traveling choir leader, actor, and storyteller. Remarkably, his career had taken him all over the world. He has lectured and taught his arrangements and compositions of Negro spirituals and folk songs to a couple of generations. I can't remember what show we were doing. It might have been Young, Gifted, and Black, but there was like one song that was like the theme song, and then there was, I sang, what spiritual did I sing? But it was like interesting just to hear the different interpret. What was that song? Oh, I don't feel no ways tired. Oh Lord, I don't feel no ways tired. No glory, hallelujah. For I hope to shout glory when this world is on fire. That was my favorite part. I'm like, yes, when the world is on fire, I will shout glory. But anyway, hearing different ways that I'm not really a singer, hearing different ways it was interpreted and put together, it was really interesting. I don't know enough about music to fully appreciate it, but it was still interesting. Hairston's life has been one of many facets, a career that started in the early 30s from Broadway to Hollywood. He was a star athlete in high school and college. They don't say what athletics he did. He graduated college as cum laude and a music major from Tufts University. He further studies at Juilliard School of Music in New York. I know one of my when I was in New York, one of the young men that I knew from high school came, but he came from a musical family. McKinney, he's like a McKinney, which is jazzy, and they do a lot of musical stuff here and maybe throughout the world. He trained choirs for many Broadway shows. In 1936, he came to Hollywood with Hal Johnson. He played on a number of character roles on TV and the big screen. Yeah, so he was out here doing the thing. So, okay. Rowley, how you say his name? Okay. Black physician and her family attacked by racist couple while vacationing in Orlando. Police take their side. I guess they mean the side of the attackers. And I happened to see the video. I wasn't trying to see the video, but I was on Twitter and I happened to see the video. The hostility and the aggressiveness. And I don't know what's wrong with them, because I feel like, they're just a mess. They're evil and mean and bitter and petty and, aggressive and attackers, and like the people just swimming. And why are you attacking them? What is the issue? And they, she's like, she called the woman, you black, Nigger, and the woman is like, that word don't mean nothing to me. And she kept saying it, like trying to get a rise out of, I guess it was a doctor and her niece. And it was, they so ugly. It's so unattractive and pitiful and pathetic. Yikes. Plane makes emergency. So prayers out to, the people who had to deal with that. Because even when people are crazy, like, it's never any fun to have any contact with crazy people. It's never any fun to have contact with people who are hostile and rude and aggressive to you, who are, like, it's just not fun. And you trying to, have a vacation, and it's sort of like, I think about like this concept of like separation. Like, it's almost like, well, what were you doing at that hotel? I saw that video. You was looking at the beast in them. It's like, well, what were you doing at that hotel? And it's like, dang, so what we do, just sit in our houses. And then, sitting in our houses, we talked about this, when they come on our porches, when they come in the yard and turn across, and we're like, this is our house. Here's the deed. Like, where can we get refuge from? You know what I mean? Like, they're just so like obsessed with us and focused on us. It just seems like, and I guess it's almost like a blame the victim mentality, because, my first thought was, shoot, don't be going to no hotels. But then, like, if people come here, to Detroit, now there is a black owned hotel in Detroit, but when I came back up with Riverwalk, and everybody's like, nobody really said anything. And so I'm like, what's going on? Why isn't it like supported? And then somebody was like, well, it's owned by some people in Chicago, which still I couldn't really figure out what was going on. Then the other day on the news, I saw a story where they had like taken somebody's money for an event. And then when the person got for the event, like I rented room A and I paid you $500 for room A. And then when I came for my event, you put me in room B. And then I'm like, that's not the room that I rented. And not only is it not the room that I rented, but there's mold in the room and I can't use the room for my event. So give me my money back. And they're like, well, we can't give you your, it was just like an awful story to, and it's like, I want to be able to be like, yeah, come, this is where you stay, sis. This is where you stay, bruh. This is the black owned hotel. They gon', when we used to have, but it's like, I don't know what to, and then if something pop off, and somebody like, the last time Poetry was here, I don't know where I guess she stayed out by the hotel, but if something popped off, I mean, by the airport, not by the hotel. So anyway, yikes. Plane makes emergency landing after man's body odor. Their 6,000 years is totally up and the fear will be kicking in deep. Yeah. And that's, if you look at the behavior, they definitely, when I step back from it, they look like a animal that's like in distress, like, whoa, like the last like gasp before you like die or something. Like they don't look like, and I always get confused by bullies. Like, if you're so great and wonderful, oh, I'm so cute, I'm superior, I'm so white, then why are you like so mad at the black people? Why are you attacking us? If you so superior and white, just go off and be superior and white. Like, you living your best life, like zero, like be happy. You a rich white man with property. So you can tell something is wrong because they, but I don't know, but they might have been like that all along, just crazy and mean and bitter and just jealous and haters. I don't know. I don't have enough context. So their 6,000 years is up and they kicking and screaming. They not going to go quietly into the night and be like, okay. Okay. Basketball Wives Evelyn Lozada sues former, see, here they go. Now I'm getting a text message from the 10 Nail Bar yesterday. This morning, I think I got an email because I responded to their survey and they're like, oh, we're sorry that this didn't happen. So you can get 10% off your service. And I'm kind of like, it's a little bit too much. Just un poquito, little bit too much. Un poquito más, un poquito, mucho más. Bring it down a little. Basketball Wives Evelyn Lozada sues former publicist for leaking lies to Tammy Roman. I think Basketball Wives comes on tomorrow. So she's suing the publicist. I think her publicist was black or darker brown than she is. So maybe there's like, I was like, ooh, there might be some bochinche in there. I don't know. Thousands attend funerals killed in Gaza. So I think yesterday we heard, or the day before, we were talking about a medic. And I'm like, so a medic and a nurse, to me, those seem like those are two different professions. So I'm thinking this is a different story. And then it makes me wonder, like, did a lot of healthcare professionals get killed when, Israel is asserting, our special forces were aiming at specific threats. So the specific threats were like healthcare professionals. Is that who you were trying to like exterminate and kill and murder and assassinate? So, prayers out, to people all over the world who are, struggling and fighting and asserting their right to be free and to be human and to have space and to have land and to live. North Korea's human rights, what Trump and Kim won't talk about. So they were talking about how many jails there are in North Korea and just how the people are just so dogged out and about the poverty and, like they say there's freedom of religion, but really the only religion is like worship of Chung Jun-un. What's the leader? If you just have to be like, oh, he's great, he's wonderful, I do everything for him. So anyway, I don't know, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like it was a sad, it's a sad situation to look at, and it's sort of like in the same way that I think like, oh, Republicans and Democrats are the same, but in some ways they're essentially the same, and in some ways they're a little bit different. And I think that things can be like there can be degrees of worseness. Hey, Black Madonna, what's up? Shalom. There can be like degrees of worseness. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like I've worked at a lot of different places, and some of the places that I've worked at have been palatable. They might not have been just happy, happy, joy, joy, but workable. And then there are some places where it's just been misery, 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 you know? So I don't know. Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. And it's like I feel like in a way, there's like a bad situation here, for black folks. And I feel like things can get worse, can escalate at any moment. But I feel like if I look at, the way that I'm personally living, like it's okay. Now, that doesn't mean that my only concern is me personally, because if the stuff is jacked up for, if I'm just concerned with me personally, then it's going to be me personally next. Like we have to be concerned with each other, because if it's okay for somebody to treat my brother bad, then it's okay for them to treat me bad. And so I got to stand up for, I can't just be like, oh, well, it wasn't me. Hey, waffle and chewy nanas. So, and I have to be tuned in and dialed into what's going on for other people and what other people's experiences are, because, we all connected, we all connected, the online war between Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and maybe it's Qatar. I always thought it was Qatar, but then I noticed on the news, they talk about Qatar, and for a while I was like, well, what's Qatar? And then I realized they talk about Qatar. And I've just always been interested in Qatar when I heard that that's where Al Jazeera comes from, and that they were attacked by like the US and a whole bunch of countries in that region of the world. And I felt like, and like one of their main demands was like, stop doing Al Jazeera. I'm like, why are they trying to shut down Al Jazeera? I don't personally follow them closely anymore, but at one point I had the impression that you could get some out of Al Jazeera that you weren't going to get from anywhere else. So I'm like, why y'all trying to shut down Al Jazeera? Like, why y'all attacking, So I don't know. This is talking about, the internet war, like how they're using bots against each other and, all of this other stuff. The online war, Secrets of a diary written on Castle floorboards. Oh, I didn't know it was Castle floorboards. So they went to take the wood floorboards up, and someone had written, every day. I think it was like let me get, but the person like kept a journal on the back of the floorboards, and like things like that they had reported in their journal was like he had a friend or a cousin who had 6 children with his woman, and they had killed 4 of them, and he was really disturbed by the killing of children, but he didn't want to report them because he had grown up with this guy all his life, even though this guy was having sexual relations with his wife. And then he was also talking about the fact that the minister, he like, I don't like how the priest is like all in my business, asking me how many times a week I have sex with my wife, how I have sex with my wife. This is not cool. And so that there was like documentation that the whole community was like basically like, we want a Protestant minister, we don't want no Catholic minister. And so the theory is like the Catholic minister was like sexually repressed because they're not allowed to have a wife, and they thought that if they got a Protestant minister, the Protestant person probably wouldn't be all up in their sex lives asking them questions and getting in their business. So it was like stuff like that he wrote. Some of it was like in terms of deep secrets, and some of it was just like everyday stuff. He was a carpenter. It was intended to be read after he was long dead and gone. 72 entries. See, I was gonna say 300. Some longer than others. Some were purely factual, others were pulsating with personal feeling. But it made me think about the fact that like things that we hold inside and things that we need to like, let out. And like when we don't let things out, like I know like I've been in work situations or in personal relationships with people where there's stuff and it's like building, building, building. And, I guess I'm now at a point of maturity where I can sometimes more often than not recognize, oh, I need to have a healthy outlet to this, because if I don't have a healthy outlet, I'm gonna go already. So, I need to talk to, a friend about this. I need to write it in a journal. I need to go jogging. I don't go to the gym, but, go to the gym or do something as a healthy outlet. I need to pray about it. I need to, ritualize around it. Somehow I need to let it go, because if I don't let it go, it's going to explode over here. So, the fact that this person was like writing, I guess as they were working, they like, shoot, I got time. Let me just, this is what I think, this is how I feel. And then they just put it on the other side of the floorboards, never to be discovered until they were long gone. And I feel like, how did they even know it would be discovered? And do you want it to be discovered, But like, what are the things that we keep secret? I thought when True Royal was doing the confessions, I was like, ooh, that's interesting. That's juicy. Confessions. Because I think sometimes there's stuff that we do need to talk about and get off our shoulders. And I don't know, who knows who, how, but it seems like it would be interesting to have like, like an anonymous place to just dump stuff. I've gone to like years ago, I've gone to like, they had those little sex toy parties. And one of the things that, was done at one party was that they had, you could write any question that you had, and it was like anonymously read and discussed by the group. And I thought that was really interesting, because maybe somebody might be personally embarrassed to ask, blah, 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 blah. But if it could just be anonymously put out there, so it was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. When I've worked with confessions or like dealing with stuff, it's been like important to establish, this is a safe environment, this is a safe environment, this is a safe environment. But it was never anonymous, like each of us said what we had to say. So the idea of anonymity was kind of interesting. But just the idea of like getting stuff, how do you get stuff off your chest? What stuff is there that you just holding in that you need to get off, or stuff that you've seen that you don't feel right about, but you don't, what do you do with it? So I thought it was like an interesting thing. Venezuela freeze 40. Is anybody here? Press 1 if you can hear me. This is what happened on my last one. It got really, really quiet. Is anybody there? Is it recording? Okay. Thank you. I just saw an email come across my thing, so I'm like, I might not even be recording. It might be off, and somebody making a comment like, it just cut off. Okay, so we'll keep going. Venezuela frees 40 jailed activists and politicians. So this whole stuff in Venezuela is interesting. And Nicaragua police in church siege after day of terror in Messiah. So Messiah watching TV too. No, that's okay. I'm not. I was having problems with buffering earlier, so that's why I jumped out of the other stream, because I'm like, maybe I can make it better. So I don't know who the activists are. I don't know if they were activists in favor of socialists. I don't know what's going on in Venezuela. I'm really curious. I'd like to see somebody progressive, somebody's analysis of what's going on, or somebody explain it in like 30 seconds. So even 10 or 15. That's what I don't want to hear about Nicaragua either. Jordanians in third night of tax rise protests. So they're raising the taxes in Jordan, and the people are like not here for it. So they're protesting. This is the third night of them protesting. Like, these austerity measures that you're putting on, it's not going to work, because we can't eat and do what we need to do with these taxes going up like this. Yeah. What's too bad? Don't feel like you have to do the most just because I said Black Martial Arts Series, Everett Eady, The Monster Man. So we talked about rising taxes. Yeah. And I don't know much about Jordan or anything like that. So I don't, But the taxes here go up and up and up. I remember in Mississippi, I used to do taxes for low income people who made, I think in order for me to do their taxes for free, they had to make less than like $60,000 or something. And I had to take a test from the federal government to do that. But most of the people who came, it seemed like they were making about $30,000 or $40,000 a year at most. Some of them were making 20 or 30, and a lot of them were parents. And it's like when you look at the numbers and then you look at how much they're paying in taxes, and there was like a shift. Tax law must have changed between year one and year two, because I think I did it 2 years, maybe three, but it was like 1 year between the last year I did it and it was like, it was noticeable, like people had to pay more taxes. And I was kind of feeling like a way, like, wow, because it seemed like with 20, 30, 40, however much they were making, like, how were they even surviving, on that? Oh, thank you. I appreciate the thumbs up. How were they even surviving? It was just, I don't know. It's just awful. And it's like you looking at the people's income. So how do you feel good taking this much taxes from them? Taxes this year in the past. I haven't done it the last 2 years at least. So it's been 3 or more years since I've done it. Or 2 or 3 years, I don't know. But it's like that's what they do, and that's what the history of the world, the wealthy have always, demanded and tried to get as much as they can from the poor, and with no regard, no care. They don't care. They don't care. They do not care. That's what I have to get in my head. They do not care. Ooh. Everett Monster Man Eady was a tough, world-ranked heavyweight striker out of Detroit, Michigan. He is known for fighting opponents in various, and then they wonder why people are still struggling. They don't care that people still struggling. They like, you can struggle and die for all I care. Just pay. As long as you're alive, pay. They try to keep you alive as long as they can to get as much money as they can out of you. But other than that, they don't. You can live, you could die, you could have, but they don't care. He was known for fighting opponents of various disciplines and being a fixture in the early 1970s martial arts tournament circuit, mainly in the Midwest U.S. Born in the late 1940s, he stood 6 foot and weighed in the neighborhood of 230 pounds. Coming from a football and wrestling background, he entered martial arts studying Taekwondo under Johnny Lee. Who Johnny Lee? I don't know who that is. To understand Eady's significance to martial arts, it's important to have an idea of the status of the sport in the U.S. during the 60s and 70s. Yeah. Stateside was the first boom for martial arts before the late 80s and 90s, with the breakout of Bruce Lee to Western audiences, cam action films from Hong Kong. Prior to this, you had American service members studying Japanese martial arts following World War II. So anyway, I'm not going to read any more about him. Did I show y'all the image? His name was Everett Monster Man Eady. Okay. Yosemite El Capitan, 2 climbers fall to death. Excuse me. So I think I've never seen or heard of them. Me either. Now we get a little more educated. We may not remember, but the next time it comes up, we be like, that might be a little bit familiar. A little bit. Everett Monster Man. Everett Eady or Eddie. I don't know. Yosemite El Cap or Capitan. I think that's like some sort of here. Oh, it's a wall. I think it's like a straight up and down wall. And the people were climbing it. It looks straight up and down. So it's probably like supposed to be like a difficult, like, ooh, if you can climb that, that means you're like a really good climber or something like that. And so these people tried to climb it and they fell to their death. That's what I think I remember. It's one of the best known landmarks in Yosemite. Yosemite, that's like a national park, right? Yosemite. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. To scale the granite rock formation known, okay, meh. Okay. So they were 46 and 42, California and Colorado. So, yeah, rest in peace for them. I'm not laughing at them. Because I tried to climb a rock wall or something. It seemed like it was kind of interesting. Memphis mayor launches initiative to fund 800 Black-owned businesses. Now, this was interesting because we've been talking about like the blackest cities, and somebody was like, Baltimore is blacker than Detroit. And I looked it up again every time that I looked. Hey, the underrated darkness. Oh, I think I saw you on New Black Knowledge's thing on Free Black Folks. Because I was like, oh, I saw a couple people I knew. It's like, huh. I wonder if that's how it got in my feed because people I know watch it. Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland is has on his own admission the city has failed a lot of small business owners, especially true of Memphis's Black businesses. So it's the city is 63% African American. I got this daggone stuff on here, all these ads and stuff. So it's kind of hard to read what I'm trying to read. But I think it was like less than 3% of the spending has gone to Black folks. And that's what I was trying to get at, but I can't see it because it's got all this junk on the screen. Oh, 1% of total business receipts in our city go to African American owned businesses. So 63% of the city is Black, and less than 1% of the city contracts and stuff go to Black people. Now, I always watch around here. Sure, of course. I always watch around here, like when I see people who, work. Oh, but I have to make you a moderator. So next time I go on the computer, I don't think you can do it unless you're a moderator. But you're welcome to. I have to go on the computer and make some more people moderators. But I always look when I see people working, like if they're working for doing work for me or doing the roof, I always look to see, do they have a 313 area code on their truck, or is it 73? Is it suburban, or does it look like it's Detroit? Do the people look Black or brown, or do they look white? I'm always curious about that. When I see people working for the government, I'm always curious to see, and most of the people are white. That's what I see. Most of the people around here who are working are white. Now, I do see, like with the government stuff, you see more Black people, and sometimes you'll see where people have hired somebody Black, or where the workers are Black to do their roof or do work. But most of the people I see are Black, even though it's a mixed neighborhood. So I want at least the Black people to hire Black people, but some of the Black people hire white people, and I don't ever see the white people seeming to hire Black people. So, but 63% and 1%, that's a huge discrepancy. And that's what we were talking about in Jackson, Mississippi, how the mayor is like, the city is 80% Black. So if you were doing a contract for the city, if you get money from the city, then, some Black people need to be making some money. And it really needs to be 80%. It really needs to be people who live in the city who are Black, who are making some money off of it because it's city money. The people who live in the city are paying the taxes. So the poor people who live in the city are paying the taxes, and y'all people are doing the work and taking the money outside of the city to your communities. So anyway, I was excited to see. I don't know what's up in Memphis, and I don't know who the mayor is of Memphis. I didn't even catch their name. But I was excited to see that because it's sort of like that consciousness. Like they tried to, when I think it was Coleman Young who was like, look, if you're gonna fight her in Detroit, you need to live in Detroit. Them white people and suburban people, that's part of the reason why they hated him. They want to live, they just want the money. Just give me the money. Right, people in neighboring cities, outsiders. And he like, you got to live here if you go, that was part of, the anger against him. Nigeria, dozens killed by cattle thieves in Zamfara state. So we were talking about Zamfara wanting to break off from Nigeria before, and the ethnic conflict, and we were talking about that before, but now we're talking about cattle thieves. So the people come. Oh, my thing is just shaking so much. I don't feel like I'm moving that much. The people come, and they like shoot the people up, and then I guess they steal their cattle. The website is I Love Old School Music. It talks more about Farrakhan's oldest son passing. Right. I heard you announce it yesterday, and I saw a video go up that Farrakhan's son had passed. But the site is talking more about Farrakhan's son passing. And I can't see. I have to wait till the comment comes up. But I think it was called I Love Old School Music, spelled out ILOVEOLDSCHOOL music, MUSIC, one word. Peace, Ron Redbird 101. Welcome on the chat. So yeah, I haven't like tuned into any news today. I was trying to get reading done, but I've just been like, I've been running so much. I was just like enjoying being still. Tanzanian conjoined twins Maria and Consolata die age 21. Oh, rest in peace to them. I think I saw the image and the girls were smiling. I saw the conjoined twins. I didn't even realize that it said that they had made their transition. They just had these big old pretty smiles. If this is, yep. Well, this one isn't the same image, but so they made their transition. They said they hope to marry one day. I think this might have been the image that I saw. Oh, his oldest son doesn't look like his father at all? Maybe his older son looks like the mama. Trump's judge picks could boost racial bias in the justice system for generations. Hell yeah, that seems to be the design. They held off when the other man was in office. They wouldn't appoint, he was trying to appoint people and they wouldn't approve it, wouldn't approve it. As soon as Zero got in office, they started pushing through his judge recommendations. And some of them we've heard about, on the TV because the people don't know basic, much love to everyone in the chat. Oh, crowns and diamonds. Resources. They don't know like basic legal things, and they just seemed ignorant and dumb. But is ignorant and dumb different, or is that the same thing? They just seemed uninformed and unimpressive and like poor quality. They seem like the kind of people that would be around him that he would be around. They fit. So yeah, definitely. Loneliness may be a greater public health hazard than obesity. Here are 4 psychology-based tips to combat it. So this article, and this is something that I think about a lot because I just think about the fact that people, that's not the same. They're deplorable just like him, King Ron. No, it's not the same. I think about, the fact that like more and more of us spend time on our devices and interacting with our screens. And, like I remember one time I was conscious, I was like in the room with my husband and I was texting him or sending him a message, even though we were sitting right in the same room. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like bong, 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 like I didn't know how it had happened, but I just felt really foolish and like crazy. Like, this is really crazy. But it was, it's like, so I don't know. It just kind of made me conscious of the fact that, it seems like we have less and less real world person interaction. And there was some cartoon I watched. It might have been The Incredibles or something, but the people were like on these, they like just sat in these like portable chairs. Like they were chairs on like these rails, and it was like, row after row of people, and they were all on these portable chairs, and everybody was like bigger because they didn't move around. These portable chairs just carried them everywhere, and everybody was looking at their screens. And then one person accidentally touched another person like in real life, and it was like, it was like a big deal, like, oh my god, I've had human contact. But theoretically you're interacting with humans on your thing. But it just got me, those kind of things just got me thinking a lot about, the ways in which, sometimes you see that, at the dinner table or in families, we're so focused on, what's going on here that we're not interacting with each other, and then there's been research that's shown that, children have a lot of distress seeing other people on social media and feeling like they're living their best life, and it makes them feel bad, but then dumb, you don't have a clue. but then, feeling like, they're compelled to like keep, paying attention to what's going on social media, even though it's making them feel worse. And so, I just think about it a lot, and I try to like put my phone down and keep my phone far away from me sometimes, and not always be on a screen, and like when I'm around people, I try to look at people and interact with people. And, I try to be conscious of like countering that, because I think that, while it's cool in a way to interact, so I just think that, even though we're more connected, I think we could be more lonely. So, I think this whole conversation about loneliness, is a serious thing. And I remember years ago hearing about this thing called skin hunger. We talked about it. And I think I saw something that said every day you're supposed to get 17 hugs, or I can't remember what the number was, but it was like whatever the number was, it just sounded like a lot to me. And it's like, if you're not getting that amount, you have skin hunger. We have skin hunger. Yeah, we should Google it, because it's been years. I talked about it about a month ago here, but I never Googled it or followed up on it. But 17. But, our need for human contact, our need for connection with other people, and, and not just like sexual connection, but like just, other like, you see people like your brother, and you hug your brother or your mama or your friends, and you get that the human vibration. You can't get that through the screen. Hey, Marlowe's Corner. We were just talking about, do pets count? That's a good question. Now that we're talking about it again, maybe I'll remember to look it up. We were just talking about, who was it? Kendra, who we said we never heard of him, the fighter. Method Man? No, he wasn't Method Man. He was some kind of fighter. So just the importance of trying to figure out, like, keep fighting for human connection with real life people, and start offering people hugs. And Edie was his last name. But what was his first name? Or something like that. I think it was EDY. I maybe passed it up again. But anyway. Oh, Everett Eady, the Monster Man. You don't know who he is either. Don't nobody know who he is. But just, keep pushing through and keep trying to increase, the contact with human beings in your life, And also, I kind of feel like, as for me, as I'm making relationships with people through this screen, I don't feel that that's sufficient. One, because you can't, to me, I mean, I feel like you can vibe people in a certain way through their channels, through the screen or whatever, but it's nothing like real human contact to vibe people out. I try, but I will try harder. I think we have to keep talking about it, and I think we have to keep trying, because I think it can just slide away. Oh, I'm not going to worry about it, and then before we know it, we not, and we need people, we need people, we need human contact. So I probably would just hazard a guess that dogs, are probably, or pets are good for something, but a pet is not a human, you know? So yeah, that's like one thing. I worked with adolescents when I worked with young people, but when I remember being around people who worked with like little kids, and the little kids would hug the adults, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just see, like I would never, when I'm hanging out with my husband, people don't talk on the phone. And my husband, I notice when people go on a date and having dinner, they bury themselves in their, yep, in the phone. Yeah, I think it's like becoming more and more a thing. When you look around, and I try to like consciously, even though it's like, it's almost like a compulsion. What is his name? We told you, Everett Eady, Monster Man. He was dang, he wasn't a boxer. Oh, he was a martial artist, not a boxer. He was a martial artist in the 60s and the 70s. He was from Detroit. I know that. So yeah, I know that there are some restaurants where they'll put baskets on the table for people to put their phones down, or, you see the conversation more and more in the media and on TV shows and stuff. But I think, I think we can afford to talk about it more and be more conscious of it, and, turn our phones off, turn our tablets off sometime, and just unplug and be with the people in our lives. And if we don't have people in our lives, then we need to be about the business of trying to figure out how do you get to know someone looking at the damn phone? It's different, Now, I had a friend the last time that I was dating, it was phone, texting wasn't the same, but when she was dating, she was so frustrated at how much text interaction she was. And she was like, why won't they just call me? I don't understand. And I think of text as like, if you're like, okay, we're supposed to meet up at 6:30 at the restaurant, it's like, okay, 6:30 I'll see you 6:30 at so and so, like confirming an appointment. But if we having a whole long conversation on text message, I don't know. And that's what she was frustrated with. But it's like the future. And I know even with my clients, like for a long time, I didn't even have text messages because I'm like, I'm just calling people. I'm not, and people would not pick up their voicemail. You'll find voicemails more and more full. Like getting fake, like voice to voice contact or live contact with people is hard. But if you text them, a lot of times they'll text you right back. So I had to change my modality. It just seems like it's more and more, the thing. I guess back in the day you had to go to somebody's house. Now and then by the time I came in, you had to call them, and now you got to text them or whatever. I don't know what the next big thing is, but I think it's challenging, texting messaging is easier than talking. Hey, yeah, no, I don't mean 6:30. I mean the other, because sometimes you get on some things on text messages, like it's confusing. It's just better to talk. And then the other thing I notice is that sometimes when I see people, their tributes. Oh, videos of black boxers on Marlowe's Corner. So check them out for that. But sometimes it's like, like I notice, like even here, like there's one person who I noticed in particular, they always write in all caps. And it was a while before I realized that they always write in all caps. And so I always thought they were like yelling. And then sometimes I'll read what somebody writes, and it's like in my head, it sounds one way. And I get annoyed, but then I'm like, well, maybe they didn't mean it that way. And so a lot of times I've noticed, like, when I start feeling a certain way, I just pick up the phone so that, I can get a sense of what's going on, because maybe I'm misunderstanding what's going on. And then my jaw will be all tight, and it ain't even nothing to be, it ain't nothing to be tight about anyway. But you know what I'm saying? It's the thing, it's different. Like it's just the whole way of interacting and communicating is changing. Like it just is. Peace, family. Yeah. So that was all to say, a lot of people are lonely, and we need to really value our person to person connections with people and respect them by oftentimes putting that phone down, putting that tablet down, and looking that person in their eye and talking to them, and, rubbing up against their arm and laughing, people meet on social media. I'm old fashioned. I like holding hands while walking in the park and getting to know each other. Until I was saying to somebody the other day, when I would hear about, because we were on a live yesterday, and the people had met on social media on Information Man show. He did something on Black Love, and the people had met on like the internet. But before YouTube, I just couldn't understand the concept. Now I feel like I'm starting to have relationships with people, and it's like I understand it more than I did before, but I even still have to tell myself, wait a second, you don't know this person. You don't even know this person's name. You hold on, just slow down. You know what I mean? Like, but now I understand like how you can feel like there can be a sense of intimacy that I think is like, I think it's like a false sense of intimacy, because I feel like I don't really know you. But I never understood it before, because I guess I was never on any of the internet dating sites. And, I had one person slide up on my DMs on Facebook, but, I never really, I guess if you're a certain generation, that's how people deal and interact with each other. And so I have a whole different take on it now than I did before. Before it just sounded totally crazy. And now I'm like, oh, I understand it more. But I know for me, yeah, we need to know each other in person. I don't know, you know? I mean, this is one context, but I got to know you over time and in different contexts, and, you know. Giuliani says Trump probably has the power to pardon himself. I do too. Watch this. Pardon me. Trump is zero is the king. He could do anything he want. He had all the power. And who gonna check him, boo? Who gonna check him? India is pushing to be a bigger player in Southeast Asia, and it's a clear challenge to China. So we've been talking a lot about China, 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 China in that region of the world, but India is right there. So India say they pushing to be a big player too. They ain't just gonna roll over and let China win. So world politics and power dynamics and the shifting and things just change and move all the time. Black artists Darius Rucker and Kane Brown make country chart history. So I guess these are like country music people, Darius Rucker and Kane Brown, and they did something. Now, country music to me seemed in a way like blues music. So I guess they like broke off, and I just thought that the break off was that blues was more black and that country was white. I Yeah. So I just figured that country blues, I don't know the technical, but I just figure anything that white people are doing, it came from black people. Didn't he make history already in Hootie? Oh, Hootie and the Blowfish. I've heard of Hootie and the Blowfish. This is coming off of Atlanta Black Star. I haven't read the article, but I'll hit it and we'll see what it is. Oh yeah, that's all we got for today. Okay. I don't know if I should do a Al-Kebalan today because I don't know how long my other stream was. So combined, I don't like to go over. I was wondering about how my parents felt before we got married. As old as we were, I felt I needed their approval. So did you ask them? Did you get their approval? Oh, you came to hit the like button on the other video, Marlo's Corner. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's what I do when I come in your room. Yes. Did they give you their approval? I remember when I went to visit my uncle, he was making his transition, and I told him about, the man that I was dating who's my second husband. And I was listening to you yesterday. I'm like, my husband now, I'm his fourth wife and he's my second husband. But and I was like, I was nervous to tell my uncle, like about him, and when I told him about him, he's like, well, you like him? And I said, yeah. He said, he good to you? I said, yeah. He said, that's good. That's what counts. That's what I want. He wasn't tripping. He wasn't stressed. Now I had one of my little cousins. It was the same. He just think you a young tenderoni. Like he can't stand him. And I think it's nothing. He never got to know him. It was just like, he just didn't like the idea of him being older than me. Both sharing a chart record as the first two solo acts who are also minorities to follow each other with #1 country songs in the 28-year history of the Billboard Country Airplay chart. According to Billboard, Brown, who is biracial, had a 2-week #1 with Heaven, and Rucker, who is black, followed him with his single for the first time on the chart dated June, which digital. So anyway, I guess as solo artists. So I don't know. Should I listen? Do I like country? Because it seems like country music seems like storytelling. Like, well, I went to the club and the girl looked good, and I don't know. Like blues music seems like I like a good story, and usually it seems like it's funny too, or sad. But I like a funny story. And I like a sad story sometimes if it's like you can relate to it. Like that Erykah Badu song, My Eyes Are Green. I don't know how it really goes, but in my head, you might like it. My eyes are green because I eat a lot of broccoli. It don't have nothing to do with your new friend. When she say that, I just feel like, oh my gosh, like I feel it. Like she just like, I'm not jealous, but I am jealous. Like, you can really feel it. So yeah, maybe I'll like it. Maybe I'll go check it out. I don't know. So I don't think I asked you what's new and good. The Nguzo Sapa for today was Nia Purpose. So are you on your purpose? Do you feel like you have clarity about what your purpose is? You ask for continuous and ongoing guidance about, what God has you assigned to do. You ask for God to guide your thoughts and your words and your actions and to keep you in alignment with God's purpose for you and for your life. Mhm. Is your purpose tied to your, oh my gosh, my deck is already tearing up. Is your purpose tied into your community and your family? Are you conscious of the connection between your purpose and your assignment here and how it connects to your family and your community? Are you on purpose? Do you feel like you on purpose, or are you just out here drifting? I mean, I'm just saying how you feel. Hmm? I've got questions. Joy is the ultimate creator. I remember having no subs. I'm a big supporter of small channels. Joy is the ultimate creator. Yeah, that's interesting because I go to other people's channels too, who are smaller than me, who are bigger than me. I'm a big supporter of YouTube. You're better than Laughing Gas. I'm a big supporter of YouTube. I really like the variety of voices. Like, yeah, I just really like that because I feel like everybody's voice is different. And I really get a feeling of that on YouTube. Like how people put their videos together, the way they speak, the language they use, what they focus on, how they organize stuff. I just think it's really beautiful and fascinating. And I really, really enjoy it. You know, I think that, I try more and more to, when I know people come to my channel, I try to go to their channel. So I think I probably end up going to more small channels than I used to. But I love, like there's this one YouTuber, For It's Rocks, and Potomac. For some reason, like I haven't been watching her reviews in a while because I just haven't had time. But for her, when she does Potomac, there's one character that she mimics. I thought I'd been a sub. She has different channels. Oh, this is the Royal Family. There's True Royal. There are different things. And also YouTube will kick you out of channels. So I don't know if it's like YouTube literally kicking you out, or like on my thing, I have a touch screen. And so every once in a while, I'll notice that I've touched something like a dislike button when I didn't mean to, or a sub or unsub when that's not what I was trying to do. But I think it happens more scrolling, like sometimes even scrolling, a video will come up and I wasn't trying to make it come up. So I don't know. I wish my local coffee shops were like YouTube diversity. Yeah. Do you work a lot in coffee shops? You just like to drink the coffee? Why you spend time in coffee shops? Bookstores. Do they have any black bookstores in your area? What area are you in? Yeah. And I don't know if I don't think I listen to any. I don't even know who any of the white YouTubers are, but I mean, it's such a huge gazillion. Oh, I missed that. It's like so many black people, and everybody is like different. It's just, it's really, I feel I was put here to tell the chosen ones we come for royal stock. And it feels like that, my experience of you, true royal, is I really feel like I get that message loud and clear, you know? So I feel like, I don't know if you feel like you on purpose, but I would have, if you would have asked me what your purpose was, I would have guessed. Yeah, affirming, and like I feel like you speak that and you speak that and you speak that. And I think that's encouraging too. Like I think when you see people and when you feel people on their mission and on their assignment. Boston, Massachusetts. Oh, I have a when you see people and feel people on their assignment, it's like it's an inspiration